Good afternoon, friends. Glad all of you are here and coming out to enjoy a wonderful afternoon of some music. We are so glad that all of y'all are here today and going to share with us your talents and your gifts through the gift of music. Thank you for that. And this is also a fundraiser for Food for Kids. It's a mission that Main Street is dear to us and part of what we contribute year-round to try and help with the Food for Kids ministry. So we're glad that we are able to do that today. Just want to give one announcement is to let you know if you hadn't seen yet already our restrooms. You leave out the back here and you go through the doors, and the men's is right on the left and the women's is around the corner to the left. So go that way if you are looking for restrooms. When we finish this evening, we have a lot of cookies. A lot of cookies. All right, so I mean, and like if you want to put some in your pockets to take home, kind of thing, we've got a lot of cookies. So when it comes time for that, it's down in our Community Life Center, which is down the stairs. And when you come down the stairs, you'll go through the entryway, and then you will turn to the left, and that's where our Community Life Center is. If you need to go down the elevator, you can go down the elevator and then go around the ramp, and the ramp will take you into our Community Life Center, so you can go there. And both places you'll be able to have some cookies and to thank all of these wonderful musicians for their work that they've done this afternoon. And one more thing is there was a phone that was found. It was downstairs when you were coming in. Not to make assumptions, but it was glittery kind of, so it looks more like a female phone. It could be, and I think there were some pictures of some babies. But anyway, if you were missing a phone, some of the hosts that were downstairs found a phone, and we are holding on to it for you if you're missing your phone. So as we go into this time, let us now have a prayer. God, we thank you for this time, for the gift of music, and how music can stir our hearts, can uplift our spirits, and can connect us in so many wonderful ways. We thank you for the musicians who have given of their time and their resources and spent this time to prepare for this day. Let it be a blessing to all who are here. Let us remember with each note that we hear that all of it is going to praise you and to celebrate the work of Food for Kids and how together we are providing much needed food for the children who are hungry in our community. We thank you once again for this glorious day you've given in your creation. Amen. All right.
Good afternoon. My name is Susan Tinsley. I am currently serving as president for Food for Kids. And if you're not sure exactly what Food for Kids is, I want to share with you that we pack bags of food for weekends for children in Bedford County. We serve children in 5 elementary schools: Stuartsville, Goodview, Moneta, Huddleston, and Montvale. The poverty level in these 5 schools is 84%. When you think of 84% of those children are food insecure, that's our heart and that's our plan, is to feed these kids on the weekend. We pack things like canned fruits and vegetables, canned meats, snacks, peanut butter. I know Main Street has a huge peanut butter ministry for us. And cereal, and it is our joy to do this. Last week was our first packing Thursday of the year, and we packed 466 bags that went out to those 5 schools. And we feel like the numbers are going to be growing for this week and beyond. So we're excited to be here this afternoon. We thank Main Street for opening up your beautiful sanctuary for us. We thank each and every one of you for coming out. We thank Spiritual Steel for being here. We want to share our story in Bedford and beyond. And I know that you're in for a real treat this afternoon. We will have collection plates at the doorways when you leave. I just want to say that a lot of our funding comes from grants and donations from individuals and civic organizations. And each bag that we pack costs about $10. So if you think last week we packed 466 bags, we're doing that every Thursday throughout the school year. So anything that you can help us out with is deeply appreciated. So now you're in for a treat, because I'm going to pass this off to Richard. And he's in charge. And so,
well, we're going to cram as much music in this little over an hour as we possibly can. So let me give you just a preview. Some of you are familiar with our steel drum bands, either Spiritual Steel or our bands up at Smith Mountain Lake or in Roanoke possibly. But these drums that you see, and they're called drums if you look at them, and the big ones in the back, all of these are made by hand from a 55-gallon drum. They can't be made in a factory. They all have to be done by a master craftsman who can take an old steel drum that oil has been in, like if it's from Trinidad, and cut off parts of it, links of it, and on the top of a steel drum, imagine hammering for hours, shaping that into a bowl, and shaping then notes so they play everything. These instruments were the product of around World War II in Trinidad, and they were developed by people who had been former slaves or indentured servants brought over from Africa or India. They were too poor to buy instruments, but they were very musical. And so they took what they had on hand. There were lots of oil drums in Trinidad, one, because they're an oil-producing country, and also because the U.S. Navy had bases there, so there were lots of 55-gallon drums to be had. Most of it was taken illegally at night when the guards weren't looking. But some clever people in Trinidad, again in the 40s, figured the process over many, many years of how to take a 55-gallon drum and by trial and error shape it down and bend it down to where it can produce a musical sound. They wouldn't be defeated. They met their need with ingenuity. Trinidad is the only country that can lay claim to these. They were developed there. There's the gift to the world from Trinidad. Most of these instruments, the chrome ones that you see, they are from Trinidad. And the ones that are painted, they were made here in the United States by the inventor of steel drums. His name was Elie Minette. He was the one that really developed steel drums. He was the one that thought about these drums when they were so crude they almost weren't musical at all, and realized that they could have a symphonic kind of sound. Now we're going to do something they do in Trinidad. It's called a Vespers, but they mean it a different way. Steel bands are everywhere in Trinidad. They're in schools, they're in churches, they're in community groups, they're in civic groups, everywhere. But it is very common on a Sunday afternoon somewhere, either in a park or in a church, to have a Vespers. And during that time, the first part of the Vespers is they will play religious music, even contemporary praise. Down there, they know all kinds of the music because they had so many denominations down there evangelizing, and they listen to it and they know it. So they would play Trinidadian style, Calypso Island style versions of these hymns and have an afternoon of praise and worship, Trinidadian style. And then at the end, toward the end of the time, they would switch over and they would play some party tunes. So that's kind of what we're going to do for you today. So we're going to try to do as much as we can. So I'm going to tell you the first three songs, we're going to do one after the other. You might know some of these. I'm giving you the titles. Normally I can recognize it when they play. The first one is How Majestic Is Your Name. That's an older one. The second one, Shine, Jesus, Shine. How are we doing so far? Anybody know either one of those two? All right. And the last one is a combination of Sia Hamba and I'll Fly Away. So these three are done in a Trinidadian style and will be very typical for a Vesper service. Now you're going to get a chance to hear steel drums. There are sopranos, wave your hands, just like a choir. There are altos. Yeah. And there are baritones or tenors that are back on either side. They have 3 of the drums, and then in the back are the basses with the full 55-gallon. Okay. And over on the side, we have Bill. Not so much that they have electric guitars in Trinidad, but we're helping Bill work off some community hours, and so he... and they have drums. So let's see what you think. Those 3 songs. so much. I know they appreciate it. And that you're hearing songs that you know, I've heard before. And what you're going to hear in these songs is the little spice of the islands, the calypso style. Delilah and I, my wife Delilah, one of us took the job of being the brains, and one of us took the job of being pretty. But she didn't hear that, so she decided she was both. And I'm just here. So when we were in Trinidad visiting, we were on a ferry going from one island to the other. And the thing that struck us the most is, imagine yourself riding the bus, a public bus, either here in Roanoke, whatever, and hearing praise music piped. Or flying on an airplane or in a train hearing praise music piped. And people singing along. In Trinidad, that is just the way it is. They mix it all up. We were on a ferry going to another island, and in their speaker system playing, they had all kinds of music going. But then they started having, as part of the mix, worship songs like you've just heard. Our contemporary old hymns, things like that. And so many people on the ferry just waiting to go over were singing these songs. Didn't think anything about it. So they're very musical, and there are a lot of believers there, and they let the songs be known and done in that style. So it's a great thing to see in Trinidad, and it's still true this time. So now we're going to go 3 more songs, let you hear kind of the treatment of the islands and worship. So this one is Amazing Grace, All My Chains Are Gone Broken. Know that one. But that one sounds pretty standard. It has a little bit of twist. And then we have Oh Happy Day. Now, I was raised Baptist. It was not known about that, although I did spend time in a Methodist church. Enjoyed it quite nicely. And so they know about Oh Happy Day. And then the third one is How Great Is Our God, another old term. So you're going to hear it. Now, when I describe steel drums to you, old beat up 55-gallon drums, some literally taken out of the bushes, cleaned up and hammered and stuff like that. Would you expect any kind of sound like that to come from a steel drum? Well, that's the beauty of it. This is something that was invented new in the 20th century, and because of a pioneer. Now, other people knew how to make steel drums, and they were learning, but it was Ellie Manette who had the thought that they could sound like a really beautiful instrument. So now you're going to hear 3 more songs on our Vespers in Caribbean style, the beauty of steel drums. Well, thank you. I guess you heard over on this side that guitar. This is, well, this, give Bill Hoffman a lift. Yeah. And he is talented, and we enjoy him in the group. And he's not in the group just because he's my twin brother. He has talent on his own. And my mom liked you best. The reason I know that is, at home, Mom had, in the doorway, you know how you measure a kid's growing, you mark it off like that? Well, on one side was me, and on the other side was Bill. But beside his mark, Mom put stars, and there was nothing beside mine. So I'm working through that and trying to be gracious. So the next thing we're going to do for you is It Is Well. You know that one. And it has a powerful story. The next one is Mighty Savior. This is one you may not be as familiar with, but it's just a praise song. And also, the next one is miracles. It is well, miracles and mighty Savior. So real quick, and then we'll play. A lot of people ask, how did we get this group started? You know, they do really well, and they seem like really nice people. Well, when we went to Trinidad, we heard all the stories about, we heard about one guy named Narelle, and he was a community worker in New York City. And he came and heard the steel drums, and he was running a center for troubled kids. And nothing was reaching the kids. Nothing was getting them engaged. And so he brought steel drums back and started a band, and like this, kids just gravitated, and they developed character and discipline and became model citizens. So when we got back from the camp, Delilah and I were talking, and she said, do you think we could ever do something like that here in Roanoke? And I said, well, I don't know. Let's check around. So we were church musicians, so we reached around and talked to some churches that said, no, everybody has them, but do you have some kids in your church, you know, you just can't reach? You know, they're just troubled and hard to work with and behavior problems, and we want to try. So imagine this group that you're looking at when they were all 14. And the churches sent them to us, and it was rough at first, particularly Bill. But it was the punching and fighting and the attitude and stuff like that. But we kept working at them, kept loving them and working with them and loving them. And gradually they developed players and discipline and turned into solid citizens. And we're happy to say that everyone here has a job with benefits. And most of them have been out of trouble a long time. But they enjoyed the experience so much that they didn't have to come to us anymore by court order. They decided, hey, and so look at them now as adults, still hanging together, being and the character people and the solid people that we always hoped you would. And I just want to say in front of everybody, Delilah and I always believed in each and every one of you that you were going to make it. So let's rejoice and share that now as we play our song. You need to know that some of these stories may or may not be true. Well, thank you. We really appreciate it. Hoping you're enjoying the sound of steel drums. Again, try to imagine the very beginning of this. Who would have thought that some sound like this could come from instruments that were junk? And now there are steel drum bands all over the world. There's almost literally not a country that doesn't have a steel band in it or steel band programs. And it's growing. Colleges, churches, universities, civic groups, because it's such a happy and joyous sound. You can't be sad when you're listening to music like that. And you get the feel of there's an energy in the islands with their music, and you can feel it here. Just like there's an energy with a believer, you can see it and feel it, and it lifts other people up. The next three we're going to do for you, because I tend to forget, is How Great Thou Art, but not the way you think. In Trinidad, they wouldn't listen to the George Beverly Shea version, with long, although it was beautiful. So you'll hear it in a minute in the island way. And then Everlasting God, and then one that I'm sure you know, a thing called Just a Closer Walk with Thee. Wow. We have a pastor friend. I've known him for years. He says when you've been with people this long and they're still awake, you're doing a good job. So, thank you for being alert. We're going to switch over for just a quick second to the party time. Our Vespers is over. We've had praise and we've had worship and we've had joy. So now, let me check, because I was given a time to quit by your pastor. No, but we got time. We're going to do a couple of island tunes for you, okay? And the style that you're going to hear is a pattern called Soca. So when they were coming up with the rhythms, a lot of people know the word calypso and kind of how that feels. Well, they would listen to music all the time, but the way they would get their music is on the radio, and they would listen to the BBC. And that's when they learned about proper music. But then there's transmissions from the States started coming in, and they started listening to soul music. And they kind of worked those rhythms together, and it came up with a rhythm called soul calypso. And then they shortened it down to soca. So we're going to do a couple songs for you that's in the soca rhythm. The first one is called Coconut Woman. And Coconut Woman, there was a singer, none of you are old enough to know this guy.